All right. So today we are starting our new unit. This unit is kind of a combined unit. It's going to be balancing equations and nuclear chemistry. So we're going to learn about balancing equations first, and then we're going to use that knowledge when we learn about radioactivity and radioactive elements. We're going to learn about nuclear power, and then also nuclear weapons and kind of how all of that works and understand about radioactivity in the world. But the first few days of this week, we're going to focus on balancing, and then we're going to start talking about nuclear. So for today, our title is How Many Atoms? And we're going to have a quiz on this tomorrow. So we're practicing it now so that we'll be ready for our quiz tomorrow. And so we're going to start with an easy problem. And so for how many atoms, we're going to try to figure out how many atoms are in water. And specifically, we want to know how many H's and how many O's. Grady, will you pull that mask up, please? So what I would do, how many H's are in H2O? 2. And how many O's? 1. So I would just write it like that. And this will, why we're writing it this way will make sense as we keep going as well. So this was a really easy first problem. How many atoms? Well, there's 2 atoms of hydrogen, H and H. There's 1 atom of oxygen. Okay, that's the basic simple one. Now let's do one slightly harder. How about how many atoms in H2SO4? So I want you to try it. Write down each element, the number of times that it would exist in this atom, in this molecule. But on the worksheet that we're going to do today, I'm going to ask how many H's, how many S's, how many O's. So writing it down will help you determine how many of each. Is it? Because I'm making this up as I go.
Where they make you draw, it's like 4 plus 4, and they make you draw like dots.
I think it'll why we're drawing it out will make sense as we get a little harder. Any questions so far? So it's H2, so there were 2 H's, S with no number after it, so that's assumed to be 1, and then O4, so I drew 4 oxygens. So now what if I add, what if I write it something different? I'm going to write Al. So how many atoms would you have here? Write that out, don't say it. So how many aluminums? 1, because there's no number after aluminum. See how there's a 3 outside of the parentheses? In math, what does that mean? The 3 applies to everything inside the parentheses. So you can either write OH, 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 or you can do 1 element and then the other, which is my preference. So I'm going to write 3 O's and 3 H's. So that number outside the parentheses applies to everything inside the parentheses. Now, what if I did something wild and crazy and I said I have 2 AlOH3s? So now I've put a coefficient in front. So that applies to everything after. But if I know how to draw an AlOH3, AlOOOHHH, could I draw 2 of them? Sure could. So the 2 in front just means draw everything you've just drawn 2 times, not 1. Yes, sir. No, you could have done it next to. The goal is we're only drawing this out so we can count them. Because on the worksheet, what I'll ask is how many aluminums, how many oxygens, how many hydrogens. And when I've drawn them out, they're really easy to count. Hi. No, that's not correct. So the molecule is AlOH3, but you can have more than one of the molecule, but you cannot mess with the subscripts. So when you have subscripts, we're going to learn about that tomorrow. You can never change the subscripts, but you can change the number in front, which is how many of something you have, how many of that molecule. So what if I had trying to think. No. What if I have that? That's a lot harder. Take a moment, write it out. Let's see if you get the right number of each element. So we draw our first H2SO4. We draw another H2SO4 and O2. So if I asked you how many oxygens, the answer would be 10. The 2 only applied to the molecule it was in front of, this front 2. Let's try another hard one. Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's try that. That's a 3, and then it has to have a letter, so it's an oxygen. I'm glad you asked. Can someone tell me what you wrote for this one? Anyone feeling brave? Jackson? Uh-huh. Wait, how many hydrogens? No, not 2. How many hydrogens? What? 8. Because it's NH4 twice. So N. As long as you know how to do it, that's what we really care about. So 2 N's, 8 H's, and O, and then 3 pairs of O's. So something like that. So total, we had 2 N's, we had 8 H's, and we had 7 oxygens. So today's assignment is one side of the worksheet. I did print on the back to save paper, but it's one side of the worksheet. It's this side, the side that says how many atoms. So I've posted that on the Zoom and other important links for my homies. And I have hard copies for my people in person. We're just going to do this side. But just to be clear, what we're doing is this step where you're writing it out isn't what I'm asking for. I'm asking you to put numbers on these lines. So you can write them out or you can do it in your head. But in your head, you should be kind of thinking about how many N's, how many H's, writing them down, how many H's, how many S's. And I have posted the answer key so you can check your work. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit more practice on this, and then we're going to have a homework quiz on this type of how many atoms. So for those of you at home, you may pull up the assignment and check your answers. Let me know if you have any questions, or you can go and work on it independently. We'll go over any questions you have tomorrow. And people in class, we're going to be working on this one side of the worksheet, and then you can check your answers as well on the Zoom and other important links document. All right, I'm going to stop recording, and you guys may go if you would like.